everybody. Hi. It's the 16th of March of 2021. In case you're listening to this 10 years later, got to set this up so you know that this is when all of this happened. I'm Jeff Gerstmann. This is the Giant Bombcast. Still your home for the video games. That's the slogan, right?
It's at least on 2 shirts.
That's right. It's at least, yes. I love 2 shirts. He's my favorite Oaktown rapper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jason A. Striker's here. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing quite well. Man, I want some Lucky Charms now. All of a sudden,
what is?
We were talking about it in the pre-show.
It's not cool, man.
I don't know why. Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day is coming up. Danny O'Dwyer.
Too soon.
Yes, thank you for having me on this week for Paddy's Day. I know it's a special occasion, so you decided to bring me on. I really appreciate it.
Yes, you need to say things like I don't know, what is it, like a corned beef and hash, or faith and bagor. I don't know, like what's the traditional
corned beef hash is a food I did not know until I came to America.
Really?
So
it's a staple of the Filipino diet.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Great.
So I thought, we got a lot of stuff in common with Irish people. This is great. Catholicism,
big families,
corned beef.
Totally. Yeah.
Great.
Apparently not. No. That and Lucky Charms, sadly not part of a stable Irish diet. Mostly just collections of root vegetables and a piece of meat on the side. It's kind of how it goes.
Mm.
Okay.
That sounds sounds okay. Jan Ochoa, your favorite root vegetable?
Rutabagas.
It does have root in them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or a good daikon
right
radish because they're fun sized. They're just shaped funny.
Yeah. I am mostly Irish, but it's never like I've never.
Gerstmann.
Like it was yes. Gerstmann is originally. But it just we never did any kind of anything like family wise for St. Patrick's Day. Are you supposed to? It's like there's no. I mean, you get a shamrock shake, right? I think that's the most Irish of treats, right?
Yeah, it's kind of just like a day off, because in Ireland it's always the 17th. So on the unfortunate years where it would land on a weekend, it sucked because you didn't get a day off school or work.
Oh.
So this was actually prime because it's a Wednesday this year, which is perfect. You get that little sort of like day off in the middle. You'd have the parade and all that sort of stuff. But of course, the Americans always had them on the weekend before or after, depending on where it was. And the American parades were always like way bigger because like way more money, way more people. So we'd always watch the like highlights. The local parade would be rubbish, it'd be like your local Thanksgiving parade. Or is that a thing? Like that type of thing. Whereas like you'd watch Chicago and it's like they made the rivers green. What are they doing?
And why? What are the
leprechauns?
Yeah, and they did that this year. I guess they didn't do it last year, but this year they said, hey, they did it in secret apparently.
Right.
They were like, hey, we didn't want people to gather and we didn't want to cause like a health situation, and we're not issuing permits for parades, but we did dye the river. Like here's some pictures of it, to which I say, prove you really did it. That's all Photoshop. I know it, man. I know the truth, Chicago.
Did someone do that to like the San Francisco Bay a long time ago and just hasn't stopped?
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Celebrate
Dublin did this thing years ago where I think it was for a world record, where they put a bunch of like rubber ducks in the River Liffey in the middle of Dublin. I think it was like the most rubber ducks but they were finding them years later because they were like these tiny little rubber ducks that had gone up pipes and disappeared, and they were causing blockages for years. And then you just, I remember like years later, you'd be going along the Liffey and you just see one of them, just came out of a pipe after a couple of years.
That's like the Garfield phones washing up on the beach in France, right? That's just eternal ducks.
Nightmare. They're in a cave, is it?
Yeah, well, what is it? I think a shipping crate got hooked on a cave, so it's just like still just slowly leaking Garfield phones onto shore.
I love it.
That sounds just like a Death Stranding like subplot or something that you've like. We got to get this crate of phones, Garfield phones. We got to get it to this empty city and make sure that they get their phones. And Jeff Keighley's here to receive them. Great.
It's like a control, object thing or something. The
right.
Garfield phone. Yeah, like an object of power. Is that what they're called? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. In a world where they do get around to making a Control sequel someday, I hope that you do just stumble into a room and it's just like a bunch of armed guards just not taking their eyes off a Garfield phone, just go like, do not look away.
Don't do it.
This fucking thing will get you.
My shift ended 2 days ago. Help.
Yep. The minute you don't respect this thing, it'll kill you.
Is there a rubber duck in Control? I feel like that would be a good one, right?
I swear
that
there
seems
is.
like
That sounds...
It's like a totem.
Yeah, I could
remember.
see that being one. But I don't remember if it actually is one or not.
I would remember that if there was. Huh.
Yeah. Anyway, video games. Brad Shoemaker is perhaps going to join us if his internet comes back.
I hope he doesn't take mine. That'd be
y'all on the same ISP, and we'll see how it goes. Mine went out. I had a situation. Mine went out for like 45 minutes yesterday, and in the process of like, well, I better turn off my modem and turn it back on because I'm not sure if this is a widespread outage or just me. The coaxial cable popped out of the screw-on part, and I was like, well, there's your problem.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And I rigged all that back together, and then turned out that was not the problem. There was actually an outage in the area. So
You had double problems.
Someone just unplugging all the cables.
basically, yeah, they unplugged so many cables that mine somehow became unplugged along the way. Loop Hero fever taking the world by storm. Jan, seems like you have maybe spent the most time out of anyone with this Loop Hero. I also played some of it.
I've played too much of Loop Hero. I think like my Steam account says like 30 hours now.
Okay.
Wow.
A lot of loops.
And I was listening to Danny and Brad describe it on the Bombcast last week, and I sat in on the quick look with Brad last week, and it was still kind of having a hard time grasping it. And because like looking at it from the offset, it's like, is this a deck builder game? Is this an idle game? And it's weird because you're also like in charge of a bunch of resources, and then there's a different component of it that like I completely overlooked, where you're equipping other equipment on top of like stuff you get in the runs. Like you're getting supplies, like you got to carry your cheese and your silverware in an antique cabinet so you can do more damage to vampires. And I didn't even know you could. So when the building aspect of the game, you are building out your camp because you're rebuilding the world from Oblivion or whatever, and from there you can actually upgrade some of your tiles. And I didn't know that was a thing you could do. And it's very resource intensive. And I think the part of the game where I'm still right at the second boss, but I'm kind of stuck in a loop of resource grinding for stuff because like I want to upgrade my towers more because maybe it'll help me out in like facing the boss or like make the grinding aspect a little bit easier. And a lot of like the little intricacies in the game are super hidden. They're super obtuse. Like you wouldn't be able to discover it unless someone else like told you, or you kind of stumbled upon it yourself. Like for instance, yesterday I was very, very close to beating the second boss because I was the rogue class, and the rogue class, I just bumped them up with a bunch of attack speed. So all my items were like plus 10, plus 20 attack speed, and then I had a bunch of forest and thicket tiles down on like the land masses, and those increase your attack speed. And if you pair that with the river tile, which is like way, way down on like the tech tree to unlock, it doubles the efficiency of the adjacent tiles. So my attack speed for like one forest on either side of the river was now like plus 8%. So I was just like stabbing like crazy. And near the end of my run, I was just like one-shotting a bunch of enemies, like getting rid of a whole like groups of 4 or 5 mobs, and it was great. And I thought like, okay, well, I'm probably in good enough shape to finally beat the second boss. So something that I didn't realize, and Brad and I didn't realize during the quick look, is the more of the tiles you place on the ground, the faster the boss meter fills up. And once you've placed down a certain number of boss tiles, the boss meter will fill up, and then it will summon the boss at your campfire, which is kind of like your home base, like the pass
Like
go.
do not pass go. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I didn't realize initially is that if you fill up all the spaces around your campfire, whether it's on the actual road loop itself or the adjacent land tiles, the boss can't spawn its like little castle stuff. So it's going to be weaker if you fill all that up. And so I thought, like, okay, like I'm stabbing hella quick. I'm one-shotting like whole armies of people. I can take on this boss. Also, because like since I was a rogue, my evasion was up. I was dodging stuff, and I get there. I get to the boss, and I get it to like almost halfway health, but then I get obliterated. And I was wondering, like, man, like I was so close. And I was looking on the comments of the video afterwards, and then someone told me that there's a stamina system that is like super hidden in the game. Like, so like on your hero, you're not actively doing the combat. You're just watching it go by, but you're equipping items and stuff. But so like you have an HP meter, and then I had an overshield type of thing, which was like magic HP, so that like is independent of my overall HP. And then there was like another smaller gray meter that is like my stamina, and because I was stabbing so quick, my stamina was like diminished, and that's why there were bouts of that boss encounter where I just wasn't doing squat.
Oh, yeah.
Like I came in super hard, but then like because I had stabbed too quick and like I think my attack speed was like through the roof, I got too tired. And then the boss
second round.
And then the boss wound up obliterating me. It was so wild. But I guess like that's probably because of the build I had where my attack speed was so jacked up versus it being, I don't know, at a semi-normal rate for one of the classes.
Just wearing yourself out.
Just wore myself out. But man, like I don't know what it is because like I've never really been into idle games, and I've never been into like resource gathering stuff like this. But it's just scratching some type of weird itch right now.
Yeah, I think the idle game stuff is kind of a misnomer. Like it doesn't, as something of an idle game aficionado. Like obviously the game progresses. Like things happen without you directly interacting with them. But I've found, and I'm super early on. I haven't even seen the first boss because I always punch out and go like, well, I should keep these resources and build up more, and then next time I'll do even better. So I'm still kind of in that mode. Mm-hmm. But like the combat has always felt like active enough where it's like I'm always kind of like, oh, I'm gonna hover over this, like, oh, these are weapons I didn't equip yet, I should drag these on there real quick. Like it always feels like there's something to do, or like an enemy is blowing up and I'm getting 3 cars. It's like, all right, I got to think about this real quick and do it right now before he gets into his next fight. And so it's, yeah, it's been a fairly active game, because you're constantly, like, stuff is constantly coming your way. You have to then almost process. So like I don't know if this is actually a thing, but in my head it's probably a thing of like there was a shield that I didn't want to equip, but it was like too good to just throw away. And so I kept dragging it to the front of the upper left spot in my inventory so that it wouldn't scroll out, because I just wanted to keep looking at the stats on it going like, well, if I changed out these other 2 items, then this shield would be better than my existing shield, but right now it's not. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to lose all my regen, or I don't want to lose all my other, vampirism or whatever. So I want to keep that shield in there for now, but I should hang on to this because if I get that stat on another item, then I can afford to just like lose that shield and get this other one. And so like even on that end of things, it felt like, and maybe that's me overplaying it. Like it doesn't sound necessarily. No. Okay.
Yeah. Like depending on the class, like the necromancer class, like you wind up juggling a bunch of different stats because you're not only juggling your own attack speed, but you're juggling like, okay, well this is going to be because the necromancer, they summon friendly skeletons to fight for you, and you start off with summoning 2 base skeletons, but depending on what items you're rocking, you can get like +1 max skeleton, or you're upgrading the quality or like the level of the skeletons you're summoning. So that's even more stuff to balance.
I love a high quality skeleton.
Gotta love it. You gotta love
tired of these low quality skeletons.
Yeah, there's one that looks like Wolverine that's like super weak, but then there's another cool one with a shield. And it's wild because there's a lot of like hidden synergies between all of the cards, right? Like there's the treasury card where if you have like meadow cards interact with it, the meadows will change in like their efficiency. But I didn't know that you could also put pretty much whatever next to them. So if you have a bunch of mountains or whatever, you can throw the mountains on the treasury and you'll still get the bonus. And the fucked up thing is, so once you complete a treasury, so you surround it with 8 other tiles, whatever they are, you could use an Oblivion card. An Oblivion card erases what was previously on that tile. You could erase the treasury, and then you won't have to face the gargoyles that spawn from a completed treasury. And then the other messed up thing, which is pretty cool. So like once you complete a tile or a set of 9 tiles with the mountains or rocks, and you get a peak, harpies will spawn from that, but you get a giant bonus from completing the peak. You throw an Oblivion card anywhere on that set of 9 tiles, it'll erase the peak, stop spawning harpies, but you can continuously go on a feedback loop of placing a rock or mound down, getting that bonus all over again, deleting it, putting it all back over again. So if you're looking for rocks, like that's a strategy to go for. And like,
no, I'm always looking for rocks.
I know a guy.
All right.
But then like, yeah, you're unlocking more land tiles, and it's like so wild because then you get the sand dunes and the desert cards, and those are like, why would I want like the HP globally to go down for every unit? Because it'll decrease it by like 0.5 or 1%, and that acts globally for like you and the mobs.
All right.
And then it's like, well, why would I want to do that? Because like I'll be more vulnerable. But if you're playing like the Necromancer class, or you're playing the Rogue class that has like the Overshield magic HP, that isn't affected at all by anything. So you're smacking dudes hella hard, and you're still able to take a couple of hits because of the magic HP. And I'm sure there's like a bunch of crap I still haven't found.
It definitely has that vibe. And I just, I know it came up last week, but the look of the game and sound of the game, like they do such a good specific job of like evoking this kind of classic computer game vibe that
like old Sierra games. Yeah.
And it's not that it's that kind of game per se, but I think just the way they are kind of, even their dumb CRT filter, which I normally hate, I think looks really nice in this specific case. And yeah, I from the minute you launch it, it's definitely like, oh man, this is like a really like just well thought out, like just amazingly put together game. I was really, really impressed with it. Yeah, I definitely want to play some more of it. Like it's a game that is hard to describe, and I think that like that's when people talk about it as like being 5 different games. I don't know that makes sense either. And people say like, oh, it's a reverse tower defense, or it's just a tower defense. It's not even necessarily that.
Yeah.
It's but the action I feel like is all in like, because the combat happens automatically and because the movement generally happens automatically, like it really is just an inventory management game. It's not a deck builder.
No,
it's not, but you are like, things are heading your way and you process them. And then the gamble is, do I go for another loop or do I cash out here?
Yeah.
And that seems like which is not a great explanation, but like it's a hard game to compare to other games. I think there are definitely like elements you can pick and pull, but I think if you try to describe it as a sum of those pieces, you're almost kind of underselling it in a way. So it's I'm really surprised.
Yeah, it's totally like a carrot on a stick type of game where I want to just jump out of the run because like I have what I needed, I have the materials I need, but then like the numbers are just going up in terms of gear, or your performance is starting doing better. It's like, okay, well maybe I'll just stick around, and then you'll get more tiles that you actually want or need. It's just good. It's great. The music is really good, especially when the boss music kicks in.
Oh.
It's it feels epic for what looks like you're just staring at like a map. for forever, right?
Yes, totally. Yeah. And yeah, there was stuff just about like, placing tiles and stuff that when I hadn't seen much of it myself, the description sounded like, oh, well, okay, I'm going to get this meadow or mountain tile. I'm placing it on my loop, or I'm expanding the loop so it's a longer loop. But no, it's like the loop is set and you can just place stuff. You're plopping it down wherever and getting bonuses from it. So it's way more passive than that, even in some of that placement. Though, obviously, yeah, if you start unlocking rivers and like that placement starts to matter in a way that even when you initially start playing doesn't seem as wild as it really is. Like, yeah, there's just a lot to it.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how big the team is, because it's such an intricate game. And then like there's like small bits of writing in the game, like when you meet a new type of enemy or like a boss. It's pretty clever. I also enjoy that there's a dyslexia font, because for as stylish as that pixel font is, it's kind of hard to read sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So the dyslexia or high pixel font is a welcome addition to that.
Yeah. That's I toggled through them and I was like, I kind of want the vibe of the old font. But yeah, it's great that there's those other choices in there for sure. Danny, you played Monster Energy Supercross 4.
I did. I was looking at games that came out this week, and I was like, what game do I think none of the rest of them have played?
Yeah, so
right?
I've definitely played some of the Monster Energy.
Actually,
there just aren't a lot of games like this anymore. And I remember when the press release for it was, I guess it was maybe the first one of these or something, but it was just like such a wordy, branded title that it was like, is this an advert game? Is this like the Toyota Yaris of the modern age? And no, they're just making this licensed or this branded Supercross game, and now they have apparently made 4 of them, which was news to me. I thought this would be like more like 2 or 3 at the most. But tell me about Monster Energy Supercross 4. Did you drink a Monster Energy while playing it? Which flavor? What's your go-to Monster Energy flavor?
I didn't. I was talking to Jan before we went on. I don't think I've ever had a Monster Energy drink in my entire life.
Yeah,
I think maybe we had a prop one in the studio for our Death Stranding section. But and I think maybe I eventually drank that before we threw it out and left the studio, probably around this time last year. But so I can't remember if I've ever had it. But I guess
loss is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I didn't make me forget about Death Stranding though. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. Do I like Death Stranding? I'm still not sure. I'm glad I played. Yeah, anyway,
it's okay not to. But it's okay if you do. I don't know. Like
we're not talking about Death Stranding, but it reminds me of like a Lars von Trier movie where like I'm kind of glad I experienced it, but I don't know if I liked it, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Mm-hmm. But it was like,
yes,
that was weird. Cool. All right. I'm a better person.
I saw
maybe.
that, and I think that's the thing where, like, as like having other people around me that had been playing more of it, and like hearing all of the story details from them, I reached a point with it where I was like, this is not. I don't want to see this anymore. Like, I don't need to see how this wraps up, because everything they're saying about where it's going is like, I'm just gonna uninstall. I'm good. I don't need to put any more ropes down.
Well, this year's Monster Energy video game is Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 4. I guess Monster Energy sponsors the Supercross, like FIM World Championship or something. So it's not just like a totally out of left field Monster sponsorship,
right? Yeah.
And this is very much a game for like fans of this sport. Like, I was wondering, I have no experience with this series, and I was kind of going back to Motocross Madness, like, are they going to go that direction, or is this something a bit more simmy? And it's definitely in the sim line. It's got real tracks, real riders. It had Oakland Coliseum, and it had a couple of, because the tracks are just temporary, right? They just put mounds of dirt and tires and stuff.
It's just the swap meet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's out in the car park. Yeah. The racetracks every
geez.
Saturday afternoon. It's incredibly difficult, and I play Formula One games on a race seat in my garage on a fairly frequent basis, and this game is just so. It was really hard for me to understand whether or not this was like a bad game or a really hard game that I just wasn't getting to grips with. And I think it's the latter. Or it could be both. I can't tell.
Right.
But it's the more I spend time with it, the more I was able to get to grips with it. But like, I have never had such a, I am getting like lapped left, right, and center for the first like hours of this game, because the whole thing sort of hinges on, like a lot of racing games, it has a replay system, but the replay system is like critical, because similar to something like an F1 race, if you spin out in an F1 race, you're kind of in trouble. Like,
it's over.
You're never going to make up the speed. There's no rubber banding going on, right? So the problem with motocross is that it's on such a turn by turn. You can overshoot a turn. You can, get a jump wrong, and you sort of land on the, the entrance to the next jump, and you slow down and everyone goes past you. So they have a replay system which rewards some sort of finesse. It's almost like a kudos meter type thing where your replay gets filled up. So they're kind of encouraging you to use the replay a lot, basically, to get to grips with the difficulty. And I don't think I understood that for a while, where I was kind of like, oh no, I need to be basically like tackling every one of these turns, trying to nail them, trying to use the very specific types of movement they require, because some of them require you to do that, sliding your bike around, which is one combination. Then there's like a sort of a taking a wider turn thing, so that's like L1. So there's a couple of different ways of tackling them, and then you're also doing a little bit of leaning forward and back for the jumps from the start. So it's kind of like a bit hands-on. And I think my one criticism of just how difficult that entry into the game is that there's not really much feedback on how well you're taking the corners. They have a tutorial that it sort of, does the whole, like, it's your first race.
Yeah, like here's how you hold, here's when to hit L1, or here's, hey, you can hit L1, but not here's when to hit L1, right?
Yeah, it was not very, it wasn't telling me if I was doing it right or wrong was the problem. So I wasn't really learning in that way. I knew what the button was, but
if you
I
drink
really
Monster, you'll feel it. You'll feel it in your bones.
Yeah, there's a kind of
your turn.
Well, they have lots of, this is a PS5 game, so it has like the haptic feedback and all that sort of stuff going on. And boy, oh boy, like I play F1 games, and those cars, that's an annoying game to be sitting next to somebody playing. But this was even worse. It's just like, and like no difference in rev for like, minutes on end.
Yeah.
So it's weird, because it's like I know what it's like playing simmy games that are meant for super fans, and it very much feels like that's what they've made. So maybe it's not for me. But if you're expecting like an arcadey style motocross game, this is not the game for you. And if you are into this sport, then you probably have played this series before, I kind of feel like. But I'm gonna keep trying. I'm definitely getting better, but it's one of the steeper I'm not sure if that's the right term to use, but it's one of the more difficult games to get into that I've played in a while, especially for a sports game, which tend to be like, pretty
accessible, or they at least like have options these days. Yeah, I used to review like some motocross games and stuff because they were fairly accessible, and I always really liked that, like conceptually, the idea of like, okay, you got to preload your suspension and really rock it off this jump and lean this way to really get the most out of it. And you wanted that flow, like when you start getting it, that idea of like, I'm landing at the exact right spot to come downhill on the other end of this jump and pick up even more speed for the next one, and all that sort of stuff. Always in the games where it felt good, like it felt really good. But yeah, like when I did not try 4, but I've tried one of the earlier Monster Energy racing games, and yeah, it was the same type deal of just like I used to be pretty good at games like this, but boy, this one I am sucking shit and not really. Yeah, like you, it was kind of unable to tell. Like, okay, have I just gotten terrible at these, or are they trying to do more with it? And it seemed like they were trying to do more with it in a way that I just didn't want to engage with anymore. But that was a long time ago. Like I feel like, like MX Superfly, like all the just other crazy arcadey stuff, and that THQ was doing for a while. Like there was just a lot of that stuff coming out, and then at some point it seems like it dried up, and now maybe I'm trying to think, this is the only one of the only motocross games going these days.
That's kind of why I picked it up, because I was like, yeah, I'll play one of these. It's been a while. Like these, these and monster truck games were kind of a thing for a while, and then I guess also there is a new monster truck.
The new monster truck that just came out.
Really?
So I don't. It's
Does it
but
have
again,
real
I think
trucks?
that's similar. I think it might. I think it's kind of that way. I shouldn't say because I haven't played it, but yeah, and I mean, like an arcade racer and a sim racer. They could not be more different types of games. Like the process of like sitting down and playing a Forza and sitting down and playing like an F1 game, aside from the fact that they've all got wheels, they're totally. One of them is like an experience that you're really like on the limit, like thinking critically about every turn as they're coming up, and the other one is more of a open world almost game at this stage, sort of a little bit more passive and relaxed, right? So I think I was playing this game wrong at the start. I was expecting a sort of a
mash the accelerator down, just jack the right stick around over jumps, and everything will be fine. It's super not that. That's yeah. Oh well. I say oh well, but like at the same time, I think if we got back to a state where more of these arcadey motocross games were coming out, I don't know that I would necessarily spend a ton of time with them anymore. It just feels like that maybe that moment in my life is gone or something. But
I feel like
if they're arcadey and accessible, I could see the family here getting into it a little bit, because the little guy is into motorcycles and motocross and monster trucks and stuff. So
what's his favorite monster truck? Is it the Goldberg truck? Is it the NWO truck?
No, I wish. No, he has no taste, but it's Gravedigger.
Okay,
go figure. He likes spooky stuff.
What about Son of Gravedigger?
I don't know that he's familiar with him.
He's the son of Gravedigger.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. I think they've since there's no WCW anymore. I think they have gone and rebranded all of the WCW trucks. To other things. Like so, I was looking this up recently, as you do, and let's just type in Goldberg monster truck, because it's called something else now, I think.
They rebranded them.
Kids don't play Goldberg anymore.
Goldberg truck.
It is now known as Maximum Destruction, or simply Max D. It was originally the Goldberg truck before it became Team Meents, and now it's known as Meents. Meents. Meents.
Is that someone's name?
Oh, so here's WCW shut down around the turn of the century, so it was like 2001-ish, and so you didn't need a Goldberg truck past that point, and so for 2002 they were going to call it Maximum Destruction, but then 9/11 happened, and they didn't think that was a good name.
Okay.
So they waited a year, called it Team Meents, and then called it Maximum Destruction.
Max D.
Yeah, that's...
There was a Bigfoot cartoon.
What?
There was a Bigfoot cartoon. Like that's how big a role monster trucks played in children's lives for a while. There is that they were able to do like some kind of animated Bigfoot thing.
Was the
funny
truck,
when I go
like,
to Google Bigfoot cartoon and it pops up saying you have definitely looked this up before? I'm like, seems like I would have.
Anthropomorphic truck. Like, was the truck sentient?
Did it?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just like anything like this. It's just kids driving a truck and then they solve crimes or something. Probably that's probably what that was.
Sure.
That's what the Pole Position cartoon was for all the rich backstory in that arcade classic. I think they just fought crime in fast cars. It didn't even look like the cars from Pole Position. Just disgusting. Mm-hmm. Danny, you've also been looking at 2 Point Hospital Jumbo Edition.
Yeah, just a little bit on this, because I guess this is kind of new and kind of not new, because 2 Point Hospital, which is the spiritual successor to Theme Hospital, the classic Bullfrog game. This is made by ex-Bullfrog devs, Gary Carr and Mark Webley. This has been out on PC for, bit of a bunch of time now. It came out on consoles, I think this time last year. It's been out for a little while. But yeah, the Jumbo Pack basically has all of the DLC, including the stuff that's been on PC for a while. That game's pretty popular in this house. Me and my wife played a bunch of it. So I hadn't touched the console versions at all. So I decided to kind of have this be my go to see how that works, because these games are, you know, top down sort of, well, isometric management sims, very much a mouse and keyboard type thing.
Right.
But it works really good. They did a great job in simplifying the controls. There's no like mouse cursor or anything. It's all analog sticks and D-pad. The 4 DLCs are in it, the sort of big packs. I think 2 of those were previously available on consoles. And then there's like 2 item packs as well. And it's all thrown in together. I think at the moment it's on sale as well, maybe as a sort of a launch sale. But it's cool. Yeah. So if anyone, you know, put it on people's radars again, if anyone was a theme park fan or a theme hospital fan, 2 Point is like the perfect like spiritual successor. It's you know, one of those games. It's in all but name. They've done a bunch of really interesting sort of simulation and mathematics stuff, which leads to emergent scenarios, which didn't really happen so much in the early game, obviously, because it came out in 1997 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So it's super cool. Yeah, I like it. It looks good. Looks totally good. It doesn't look incredible or anything, but I like the art style in that game, and it looks solid on consoles.
I don't like the look of the people, because they look like Wallace and Gromit characters.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, you know,
claymation.
I've always meant to check out 2 Point Hospital, but I never really spent any real time with it. But I feel like I would probably. So it seems like it's viable on console, but do you think you would probably still just take it on PC?
Yeah, it's kind of more of that type of game. If I had to choose one or the other, it is more of a, you know, sit down, scrolling out, nipping around, going through the menus type thing. I felt myself probably operating at 80% pace on the console, but it's totally viable if that's your only way to play it. And this is a good deal, but yeah, I'd go PC over this.
Yeah. Let's see. I have been playing everyone's favorite, newest, most recent video game, Stubs the Zombie.
Oh,
this is new though.
Today I believe they are re-releasing Stubs the Zombie for PS4, Xbox, Switch, and PC. That game originally came out in 2005 just for the Xbox, and it runs on the Halo engine.
Right?
Yeah. Which is also crazy. So like some of the lineage of the original devs, I guess, is they had time on Halo in the early days, and left Bungie and started something else, and so they were able to borrow/license the engine. So one of the marketing points back then was like, this runs on the Halo engine. And it was just like, that's ridiculous. What does that even mean in 2005? And so now technically, I guess the Halo engine is on the PlayStation 5.
Whoa!
And
that's nuts.
You know, in this end of the Switch.
Oh right.
And yeah, so it's weird.
I'm sorry.
It's fun to go back to it. I played it on PS5, but it is a PS4 game. Okay. It is not running natively on the new consoles.
But it's a full like medieval sort of style remake, like new graphics, new everything.
No. It is exactly the game from 2005 with like higher resolution and I want to say, so I mean, some Xbox games were widescreen, some were not, and this one is widescreen in this release, but I don't know necessarily if that was the case back then or if it was technically a 4x3 game, because there are parts of this game where like when you get into boss fights where it actually just goes to 4x3 for a sec to show you like a cutscene or whatever, and then pop back out. And I thought that was really weird. Which makes me wonder, like, and I didn't go look it up, but this thing's $20. But also, they're going to sell. They're taking pre-orders for a collector's edition that will be out in the fall. $150.
Wow!
And it comes with a Stubbs head and like his spleen, which you use as grenades. And it's just a really bizarre thing to put back out, but at the same time, Stubbs was okay in its day, and it's interesting to go back and look at it now. It is a very old type of game. It like just design wise, it's just like there's really not that much going on in here, but it is still kind of charming. But like the audio, like the audio was recorded at whatever bit rate they used back then, and so all the speech has that like tinny high end to it that games used to have, but you never noticed.
Love it.
But now it sticks out like a sore thumb because of how good games can sound, and you're like, oh god, this is terrible. And it's just fascinating that all of that. I think that was the Destroy All Monsters when that came out, or Destroy All Humans. Sorry. When that came out, I think the audio was a big problem there. They redid more of the graphics than this did, but similar type situation. If I remember right. Like, okay, so Stubbs, if you haven't played it, it is a level based. It is a large open levels because they had the Halo engine to work with. So they just went like, I don't know, let's just make a big empty area and
silent cartographer, but a city.
Yeah, right. And you are a zombie, so you shamble, and so you don't move especially quickly, and you'll be like, oh, off in the distance there are two cops that are just shooting at me, and I need to shamble over towards them, and if I get close enough, I can throw a spleen grenade or roll my head at them like a bowling ball, or just run up to them, get behind them, and then a prompt appears that says, press triangle to eat cop brains, and then you can eat the cop brains.
Most 2021 game yet.
Yeah, pretty much. And basically anyone you kill rises and they become part of your zombie horde, and there's like light squad tactics where you can basically you shove a zombie, like you get behind a zombie and push a button to push it, and so you can push zombies at human enemies and then kind of draft behind them to sneak up and fight them, or just like basically make the horde go off in that direction, and they will kill some guys for you as well. And so it's this like, and the boss fights are rhythm games. The other memorable thing about this game is that it had like a pretty crazy licensed soundtrack where it had all these.
What?
That's all there.
That's
the
all
indie
there.
bands.
Okay.
It's indie bands covering like 50 songs. So it's like Death Cab for Cutie doing Earth Angel or something like that, and like Lollipop and stuff like that. And Cake is on the soundtrack, but
was he like a salesman or something? Like what was his, or a detective? What was his deal?
Stubbs, it's like
I thought he was just a normal guy.
He's just a zombie, but I think
you
eventually do get.
Yes,
you get some origin story maybe later on, but I don't remember. I've played about half the game, which is not a long game. But like the opening of the game is just like, here's this city of the future that we've built, and this industrialist is like, I built the city of the future with Nazi scientist help and all this other stuff. And yeah, there's like a swastika in the first 2 minutes of this game, and you're like, they don't put those in games that much anymore. I guess this isn't coming out in Germany, huh? And so like it's that city of the future, and then Stubbs just pops up out of the ground and starts eating people, and that's it. There's no ramp up to it other than that. But I do, if I remember right, they do get into, like, by the end of that game, they are kind of getting into a bit of the Stubbs origin, but they don't.
Like
it's been a long time. Yes, so he falls for, it's like a King Kong thing almost, where he is the monster, and then he sees a pretty lady who is the mother or wife, some kind of like mom-wife situation of the man who built the city. And so he sees her, goes, and then is like chasing after her for the rest of the game.
Cool. That's not creepy at all.
No, not creepy at all. I mean, it was 2005, right? It's just fucking weird. It was so like in its day, it was maybe like I remember enjoying it and playing it now. Like I'm not having a terrible time with it, but you do definitely play it and go, shit, this is like so empty. This game has such little going on. It's just like, even there's like a vehicle level where a vehicle controls a lot like the Wraith or the Ghost in Halo. It's like a hover warthog basically, and it's just weird. It's just weird, and it's out now, and it's $20, and we recorded a quick look for it, and then I went to watch it back, and all the video is stuttery and completely jacked, so I'm gonna have to re-record at a later date here. But we will, mark my words, we will record some footage of Stubs the Zombie. And
how weird. What
yes,
between Destroy All Humans and this, it's all these, like, how is Blinks the Time Sweeper not happen now? Surely
I
that's
think-
next.
Yeah, right. Well, it's like Blinks. I mean, Microsoft published it, and I feel like Microsoft has not always been super willing to revisit its like mid to low tier games. I don't know if that's out of shame or something, but also
no cameo.
Give me a Dr.
Yeah, like-
Muto. Damn it.
Yeah, well, Warner Brothers probably owns Dr. Muto now because it was a Midway game. Yeah, Artoon. Artoon, who developed Blinks, does not exist on its own. And okay, so if I just follow all these wiki pages, Artoon was absorbed into AQ Interactive in 2010. AQ Interactive merged with Marvelous to form Marvelous AQL.
Did it get embraced?
No. But Stubbs is Aspire put out Stubbs, which Aspire has been embraced. So
Has Destroy All Humans? I think that maybe is also.
I believe it probably is. Like Voodoo Vince came out. Like there was like Microsoft didn't publish it, but like they gave their blessing to like somehow enabled a re-release of Voodoo Vince on 2017, which was weird to see.
Yeah.
And Voodoo Vince was another game I remember being like a pretty decent platformer in its day. Like the remaster, I don't think like did not hold up super well. Oh shit. Okay, so apparently Artoon perhaps has turned into Zest, and perhaps they are the company. Yes, no, that is yes. EVP of Artoon, key members of Artoon. So the developers of Blinks, the Time Sweeper, are too busy making Balan Wonderworld,
Whoa.
which lines up perfectly now that Seb Mal in the chat has mentioned it. Like, of course, that's what the Blinks, the Time Sweeper people have gone on to do. Is to make that. That's out at the end of the month here. That's coming up.
Check out the demo.
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, you can check out the demo. It's going to be
Renaissance for 3D platformers.
Yeah. Something like that. Something like that.
Renaissance is a little
Back from the
strong.
dead.
Yeah. Anyway, Stubbs. That video got trashed. So I'll have to re-record something. It's weird. It's stuttery when it turns. It's like I don't know why that happened. I can't.
It's the Xbox. It's the original Xbox.
That's right. That's what I get for keeping original Xboxes in the house. They're poisoning it indirectly. We're gonna take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the news. Razors. Ugh. Who even wants to think about razors? All right, hang out with me here. Let's think about razors for a little bit. And I'm going to tell you about a way that you can stop thinking about razors and start thinking about everything else. Because too often you got to choose between quality and a fair price and all that sort of stuff. You know, you're sitting there like, which one is what? You're in the supermarket staring at blades going, well, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Sidestep that. Get it in the mail. Get it from Harry's. For a limited time, Harry's is offering their starter set plus a free body wash for just $3 at harrys.com/bomb. All right. What's the deal with Harry's? Harry's delivers a close, comfortable shave at a fair price. It's $2 per refill. They built their own factory for these blades. These refills are high quality, German steel coming to you. So you can shave and get a closer, more comfortable shave. That's power. And if you don't like it, they've got a 100% money back guarantee at harrys.com. They stand behind the quality of their blades that much that they are ready for you. And for a limited time, Harry's has an exclusive offer for listeners of this show. New customers can get a Harry's starter set and a free body wash at just $3. A low price at harrys.com/bomb. That's over a $16 value for just $3. You get a 5-blade razor, a weighted handle, foaming shave gel, a travel cover, and a travel size body wash. This is an incredibly great deal, but act fast while supplies last. Go to harrys.com/bomb to redeem your offer. And now it's time for the 12 o'clock news.
Oh, it is actually 12 o'clock.
Yes, it is noon and time for the news. I don't just we don't.
Maybe I can.
I can always hear like a ticker like a
Breaking news.
Morse code.
breaking news at this hour.
Video games.
FIFA in the news. We take it to our FIFA correspondent, Daniel O'Dwyer. EA has stopped all discretionary content granting, is the verbiage that IGN is using. For FIFA 21 Ultimate Team. Basically, the scandal going on here is that this seems to be that an EA employee is getting out there on like Telegram and other and trying to sell super powerful or rare cards called Prime Icon Moments or just icons. Yes, and asking, according to Polygon's version of the story, as much as 1,700 euros for it, which is a little over $2,000 American. And some screenshots of this got out on around the 10th, and yes, stepped up and said, we are looking into it. They issued a statement. You can tell it's a serious statement because it's a screenshot that they posted to Twitter. Of black text on a white background for these. It's not the cyberpunk colors.
Oh, wow.
We are aware of the allegations currently circulating within our community related to FIFA 21 Ultimate Team items. A thorough investigation is underway, and if we identify improper conduct, we will take swift action. We want to be clear. This type of behavior is unacceptable, and we in no way condone what is alleged to have happened here. We understand how this creates concern about unfair balance in the team and competition. We will update the community as we get more clarity on the situation. And so I guess in some cases it's also potentially they are selling units. Understandably upset that paying an EA employee to add units to their account. Yeah, so they have they have not they have not made any kind of moves on this yet, I guess. And IGN's
way to backtrack this, and especially if it's an employee adding units to somebody's account. I mean,
I feel like this has to be a pretty short chain, that if you're looking for it, it's probably pretty easy to find it, and someone is going to get hung out to dry real bad.
Yeah.
But the company has also stated that any accounts that have received items that were transferred nefariously will be permanently banned.
Wow.
And
which sucks for the person who leaked it, because one of the things that they had in their little conversation screenshots was, will I get banned for getting this?
Yeah,
the person's like, no, you'll be fine.
Nah, of course not. And I guess some of these items are things that you could earn through, it'd be like a Twitch drop or something like that. But also through gameplay from the looks of things. So I don't know, man. Like FIFA Ultimate Team, there was another quote from EA on this that I wish I could find now, that had a real we really don't think it's appropriate for this sort of thing to be exchanging hands for money, blah 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 blah. It's then you think about how much money they make on Ultimate Team, and you're like, what? Come on. Yes, this sucks, but also the whole thing sucks. The whole FIFA Ultimate Team thing seems like a really, that's the thing. When countries are looking at legislating around loot boxes and coming up with, when the government is getting involved to look at this stuff, FIFA Ultimate Team is the main thing they look at and go this seems bad. Yeah. So you can't really feel too sorry for EA here. At least I don't.
I'm surprised that they didn't have more stringent checks for it. I assume they do, because I know there's a big customer support center for EA stuff. I think it's still there in Ireland.
Right.
And I had a buddy who worked CS for Blizzard in Ireland, and this type of thing is, it's fairly sensitive stuff. It's expensive stuff. So they generally tends to have like eyeballs on this type of thing. So I wonder if this is just like the sort of exception that proves the rule, where somebody's handing out, they're like classic cards of Johan Cruyff and Ruud Gullit that look like they're like pretty difficult to get. I mean, if they cost 1700 euro equivalent, then that's serious money. Like, if whoever gets in trouble for this might be in a lot of trouble if it's stuff that costs that much as well. Is that like grand larceny are we getting into? Or
I think at that point, yeah. Well, I guess like then, well, think about it. Well, does EA get kind of pinned up against a wall here, because to prosecute that person, they then have to say, because EA is the loser here, right? Like the money paid for the stolen items, like, that is kind of one end of it. But to prove that there was a substantial harm done to the game, EA probably has to stand up and say, yes, this digital item is worth 1,700 euros. And they probably don't want to say that.
It's just bad, isn't it? Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not like this is the no, not all price is good price situation where like no matter how way you spin this, they kind of look skeezy.
Yeah. Because it looks like they're protecting a thing that has looked like a bad slot machine for a while. And, if they've already got more government interest around this stuff, and I think that stuff is still ongoing in some parts of the world, like this probably doesn't help EA in whatever attempt they're trying to make to just kind of sweep it all away and be like, everything's fine. This Battlefront came out fine. People love it. We got to go. So calling any attention to this end of it in a way that makes it look like players are getting exploited or that this type of action is happening around the edges of the game can't make it look good, even for EA. Even if they were harmed in this by having digital goods, by having the balance of their cash cow thrown out of whack like this. So maybe it just ends up being like the guy gets booted out of the company and doesn't necessarily get prosecuted for that end of it, other than selling stolen property. I don't.
I bet this may be the last we hear of it, because I don't think they'd want this to be in the press any more than it already has been.
They'll probably have to message their community, right? Because if the community is like, hey, you guys, like, all it takes is a few conspiracy theorist nuts to be like, this is how EA's really making the money, which is like, of course not.
I bet this confirmed it. I bet a lot of people thought that for a long time, right? Now this is like, right. I told you.
Yeah. But the other end of this was like, like FIFA was the game that always got fingers pointed at it for a lot of Xbox account hacking.
Yeah.
It would be like, we hack an account, buy a bunch of FIFA packs, like trade them to some, like sell them to people, trade them away to other accounts, and then, poof, you're gone. So what happened? Your account got hacked, and did they buy FIFA stuff or what?
They did, yeah. About 60 euro worth. I was on holidays in Dubai at the time, and I got an email, and I was like nowhere near my ex. I was like thousands of miles from anywhere I could do anything about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, they hacked my account, bought about 60 euro worth of Ultimate Team packs, and then something happened on the Microsoft side where they closed the account and emailed me. But by then, they'd already done at least that much. But yeah, no, all the stuff was gone off the account by the time I got access to it. So yeah, they sell it and then they buy it on the account and then somehow trade it, I guess, in-game to somebody else or something.
Yeah, which again, like that seems like something that you could... That's all traceable too. So like the players that are receiving those items, like they seem like they'd have to be real dumb also to get involved in it, because it just seems like such a short chain to realize like, oh, you shouldn't have these items. We're blasting them off your account. We don't care that you paid some guy cash for it. You're an idiot. And we should probably also ban you from the game while we are also the same way, like, Blizzard would go after gold farmers and stuff like that, right? It's just like, hey, we're just like, even if you paid someone to log into your account and harvest gold, we're banning your account. Done. Don't share accounts. Like the FIFA stuff seems like a not quite the same situation, but a situation where they'd be like, hey, you're knowingly trying to subvert our game by paying money outside the game. And that doesn't make us look good. It's going to cause us a lot of trouble, but it probably does mess up some of the competition in that game, which then only really underscores the idea that if someone can go out there and spend $2,000 on cards, that the pay-to-win thing that gets thrown around about a lot of these games, like, yeah, there you go. Like, no one would pay that kind of money if it wasn't going to do something meaningful for them. They're not just going to get it and go like, this card is shinier than the other one. Like, that has to be a meaningful difference in game, I would hope.
Hey, let me tell you about NFTs.
Yeah, that's, I mean, so I guess like that's we could spend another hour on this, but how long until this sort of stuff just, because like I get 1,000 pitches every day from people trying to like we've the blockchain, you're good, take this sword into any game you own, as if that's a thing that any game developer or whatever fully support. Like, so, but at one point does someone running one of these say, hey, we've decided to outsource our legitimacy tracking to the blockchain?
Right. At
this sort of scale, I'm sure there are plenty of smaller games doing something like that right now. But yeah, I mean, if the NFT thing continues to be a buzzword and all that other stuff, then it's really only a matter of time before a EA-sized player decides to, or even maybe even in a reaction to this, just like, hey, we've heard your concerns about the legitimacy of in-game items, and so we've decided to open the kimono, and now you can verify the ownership of this on the blockchain. EA will take a percentage of every purchase. I don't know.
I mean, Ultimate Team eventually is what kills the planet. Because that would, sure, yeah, I could,
Yep.
That's probably,
that's that was on like someone has that on a bingo card somewhere. Like if it's not Ultimate Team, it's like it just says FIFA. Like it's like whether it's the real FIFA or video game FIFA maybe doesn't matter, but someone has FIFA brings about the end of society somewhere.
So these cards, you can freely trade them between players and stuff.
Oh man,
I don't know.
I don't. They have an in-game marketplace for it, I'm pretty sure, but I don't think it's. I think the dark market is where a lot of this stuff is getting sold and sent around. As far I can't remember. In my head, I shouldn't answer. In my head, there was a backdoor way of doing it, and then they made a legitimate front end that did like some part of it, but I can't remember.
But it's not that. I don't think it's like you can't take your cards and then get real money for them through the in-game stuff. Like they don't facilitate that part of it, but you can always do the thing of like, hey, trade me 5 incredibly common cards for these 5 super rare ones because you just Venmo'd me $800 or something. I would assume that it works like that. But
that's my understanding, because the cards themselves you don't buy. Well, for the longest time at least, they were card packs, right? So you were buying packs, you were buying the cards, so it was rarity based on if you're opening them, all that sort of good Skinner box goodness. I think I forget how it works, but I think there are rarer packs, but I don't know if you can just buy cards outright in that manner. I think that's where all this sort of dark web stuff is happening, or I should say dark web, all this off game transactions are happening, because at least that's how it was back in whatever. I mean, to show you how long this has been going on, like my account got hacked like I think it might have been 10 years ago now. Jeez. And that was the last time I had any meaningful interaction with FIFA Ultimate Team. But so that shows you that that this is the game they've been playing for a while now.
Yeah, and I remember back then it was a lot of like, it just seemed like there was a rash of Xbox account hacking happening, and no one really wanted to figure out what was like no one was openly talking about what was causing it. So it just became this like common knowledge thing. As more and more people talked about their experience, it just became like FIFA became the flashpoint, the common thing in all of these, or a lot of these, in saying like, oh, it's people doing this for FIFA. And for a little bit there, people were like, oh, is my account information leaking out of FIFA? Is there a security breach happening and that's why it's getting hacked?
Oh, sure.
It's like, no, it's the other way of people want to get at your FIFA stuff. And so they're finding your password. You use the same password somewhere else. Like, it's not necessarily like a clever hack job. It's, but accounts are getting compromised specifically for FIFA, not from FIFA. For a while there, like that was the thing EA had to deal with, was people going around saying like, don't play FIFA. Your account's going to get hacked.
Yeah,
which is not.
I remember like a couple friends being like concerned about not being able to play FIFA because they were worried their stuff would get hacked and whatnot, because that had happened to a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Lot of stuff like that. A lot of stuff like that. Outriders, huh?
Mount up.
Outriders.
Yeah. People Can Fly's upcoming video game coming to all platforms, but on one platform you will be able to play it for the cost of a subscription fee, and that platform is the Xbox.
Seems like a
day
smart move for
one.
them.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is day one on Game Pass for Xbox, and then also on Android phones, but not PC. So this will not get you the PC version of Outriders via a
That
Game
seems
Pass
kinda
Ultimate.
bunk.
Well, yes, I think that there's probably some messaging cleanup.
Yeah.
Like the way they have to say outright, like the official thing that Microsoft wrote is Outriders will be available on console and Android phones and tablets via Xbox Cloud Gaming Beta with Xbox Game Pass on day one. They'll never get true parity there because I think on the PC side of Game Pass there are games that just don't exist on an Xbox. And I bet also for a game that they probably expect to be selling, or maybe have already taken a good number of pre-orders for PC copies of that game, like that might be a different amount of money. Like you're probably paying Square way more if you want to secure both Xbox and PC, and it might just not be worth it for Microsoft to do. But you're right. Like it's the way that they have to come out and especially with their very wordy console and Android phones and tablets via Xbox Cloud Gaming Beta in parentheses with Xbox Game Pass on day one. Like there's just it's a very Unreal Tournament for Microsoft Windows available now for Microsoft Windows sort of situation. I think this is cool. Because I don't think that game is great, and I think that this is the right price to pay for it. At least from what I've played of that, what I played of that demo, it seems like a game I'm interested in seeing more of. But it doesn't. I don't know. It's the way they have been out there saying this is not a live service game. We don't have a big roadmap. We don't have that, and trying to spin that as a positive thing. Like kind of cuts both ways where it's like, boy, this seems like a really old, that also makes, that's one more thing, I guess, that makes Outriders feel like an Xbox 360 game or you know, like it has just like this 2008 B game vibe to it.
Really does. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the focus on multiplayer stuff
in this game, right?
I assume that they would sell skins and stuff, but I don't actually have the I don't actually know if they are selling more. The quotes they had been giving around earlier preview coverage of the game was like, hey, if this game takes off, we'll support it. If this game takes off, we'll do DLC, but we're trying to get you know the full experience on the disc and just get it out there to people. So we don't have a big live game roadmap like Avengers or any of these other games where considering Avengers was also Square, I could see them being like, yeah, maybe don't do that with how Avengers went and then you look at Anthem and some of this other stuff, how it's gone. Like maybe establish that people will want to play your game first and then worry about that stuff later if they want to play it.
Do you think it was one, Jeff? Because it does feel like a game that's kind of like stuck in this weird little fugue state between it being an online service game and like a straight single player experience. Like, do you wonder if like Avengers scared them off maybe and they sort of went in a different direction?
Maybe, but I look at it this way: like it doesn't matter. Like when you start that demo, when you go and hit the X button or what whatever you're hitting to start that demo, the first thing it does is connect to a server. So. Is it a live game? Like it is not is that a meaningful distinction anymore? Or is that literally just a roadmap now? Is that literally just here's what we're planning to do post launch? Because any game can get updated and this game can be played multiplayer. And I don't know, like what makes a live game a live game?
Yeah.
Is it just a roadmap of content? And a state of the game address that they give 6 months later where they say, we're pushing these items on the roadmap back indefinitely. or is it something more? Because I think the difference makes this feel a little bit more like a Borderlands situation, where Borderlands is not a live game, but you can play it multiplayer, and the experience is not that different in the grand scheme, because it's not like look at Destiny. How many players can play Destiny at the same time? It's like 8 is the maximum. But also you occasionally run into other players out there in an open zone. And so that is kind of the idea that, like, hey, the zones are on a server and you might see a player there, or there are social spaces. Like, is that really the only distinction that makes a game a live game? Because that's a really thin line that does not matter all that much in the grand scheme. So maybe it's just a business model thing of, it's a live game, so we're going to have free updates in between our paid updates. Whereas what some of the stuff they've said about Outriders is more along the lines of, if people want DLC, we will make it, which sounds more traditional, like and then maybe we'll do a season pass or something, or maybe, like an old, I say old, but maybe I just mean different. But I don't know that it matters, I guess, as much as it maybe used to. Like I said, this game still hits a server. You buy this game on a disc, at some point that server will go offline and that disc will be useless. So it's not like they probably can't get out there and say, this is old school. This game's just going to work when you put in the disc. Like, it's not, it doesn't seem like it's that.
It kind of feels a bit like it's Warframe, but without the roadmap. You know what I mean? These instanced 4-player levels, but it has its own story thing going on. It has a strong art style, but we're not going to add more to it. So maybe we're just so conditioned for these games to get added. Like, every game gets added. Rocket League has a roadmap. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
These days it's just odd when they go, oh no, that's the game. Play the game.
It makes it feel small in a way that you go and I wonder, I think you have some players that will find that refreshing, but I think you have some players who are like, no, I want a game that's going to be like a social experience for a long time to come, or a lifestyle choice that I make, is that I'm the Outriders guy, and me and my Outriders friends, we outride, or same way you have people that are way into Destiny and way into the lore, and they're buying the merch, and they're like, they're living that life of the Destiny super fan. Like, it's weird, but again, I think Borderlands is kind of the thing I keep thinking about, because that's a game that if you had told me, like, Borderlands 3, I'm shocked in some ways that it is not a more live. I mean, they've had events, and they have all the stuff that, like, if you think about it now and how much that game has changed since it launched, and the things they've added and rolled in and out, like, it's probably a similar cadence to what we think of as a live game. It just doesn't have a social space. It's just a 4-player co-op game that you can play alone if you want to, and like, maybe that difference is kind of meaningless in this day and age. I don't know.
I'm looking at an interview, and there's no microtransactions. They're taking a hard stance on it, against it.
Yeah, this seems like a game that would have gone into production around the time that was the move to make. To set yourself apart.
I'm glad more people will get access to it. I think it's a novel. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm not sure if it's a game I would spend a lot of time on, but I think it'll find its people this way. You know what I mean? There are some folks who will really like this game, and I think that's a good way of getting it into their hands.
Yeah, I think a low risk way to check this game out. This game that seems like it's okay, and yeah, I think that's a good, like, Outriders. Like, it becomes a very different situation. Like, it reminds me of Crackdown 3 when that finally came out, and it was like, hey, as a $60 game, this is not good. Like, do not buy this game for $60, because it is like the same events rubber stamped around this open world. It will make you like somehow like the older Crackdown games less. The Wrecking Crew multiplayer they have added to it is not actually fun. Like, just top to bottom, that game is super disappointing as a Crackdown 1 fan who still kind of liked Crackdown 2. But this reminds me of that. Like it takes all the teeth out of that, any of those arguments, when you can just say, like, hey, this thing you might already subscribe to and probably should subscribe to if you own an Xbox, it's going to be on that. So of course, check it out. Like, it's this super low impact, the same way, like, hey, they added this thing to Netflix that part of it kind of sucks, but I don't know. You're already subscribed. I guess watch it. Like, hey, cool.
Yeah.
Someone in
It's
chat
like
is saying that
legitimized-
Outriders is a much better game than Crackdown 3, and I said, well, I hope so. I don't know. I don't know that.
Yeah.
From what I played of it.
I
like,
think there's potential there. I think it's got
definitely
some
potential there.
some hooks, but like some of the the cutscenes, running at 30 frames per second. Not only that, they're ham-fisted and like really.
dialogue.
Yeah, the
Oh,
dialogue
man,
is
yeah.
just terrible. Like, there's
Rough.
the characters and just the stuff that they have shown of it in that demo is just pretty rotten.
Yeah, but if there's a good
Fast.
gameplay loop, I might put some time into it. We'll see.
I wonder
Yeah,
if
I
like
think
Game Pass has
I'm gonna have an okay time with
legitimized the mid-tier game. Like, I wonder if this has
Right.
found a home for these games that sort of seem to have disappeared over the past 10 years. That's kind of
Yeah.
cool because you sometimes get novel ideas out of those.
Yeah, I think when Game Pass was first coming along, it seemed like a lot of the discussion was around, is this going to be the thing that saves single player gaming? Because, increasingly the people that are spending money on full price games, they want the roadmap. They want the 2-year experience or something like that. And so, is there room for that single player thing? And then now you even have EA saying, no, single player games are good. No, that Jedi Fallen Order, that did all right. Turns out we were wrong about this online thing needing to be in every single game we make. Whoops. So I don't know. That's a moving target, right? Like, that's like, I feel like 2 years will pass and everyone will be back on the everything needs to be online thing again, and that's gonna never land. But as someone who was going to check out Outriders, despite not necessarily loving that demo, I guess, like, hey, this is great. It seems like a great way for this stuff to go. And
Did you play on PlayStation 5?
yes, I did. Yes.
Oh,
So
it looks like you're doing the tutorial again.
yeah, looks like I got to play that stuff again. Yeah, and so cool. Sorry, I need to send a text message here real quick.
I played it
or
on
move on.
Xbox, so
Yeah, you're already set. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm already set.
Yeah, so now I have to decide, like, if I'm going to play Outriders and I am going to play it on Xbox, do I play that demo again, or just wait for the game to come out and play it, like, for real, quote unquote?
And they're keeping
I
that
don't
demo
know.
up for until release, aren't they? Kind of
I
interesting.
suspect, yeah,
Wouldn't be
I would
surprised.
think,
Yeah.
You should do.
I think I read that.
yeah, why not?
Get your day one pass, Jeff. You've earned it. You'll maybe get some better frame rate in those cutscenes or something.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, maybe maybe they'll make some changes and stuff by then, because parts of that demo seemed super rough. And I
take out
I
50% of the word ass mentioned in the dialogue. I'll be super.
I want them to add more ass to all video games. But also, like, I played the what is it, like, the pyromancer class, and I did not find it to be fun. So, like, and that's one thing you can't change, I believe. So, like, I guess this will give me an opportunity to start over and pick a better class this time, maybe.
Yeah, what was the deal there? I think you couldn't change, but it said in the demo if you completed that, you could re-roll.
Yeah,
back
you
to
can
that
start.
point.
You can skip the prologue and get right to the class selection. So
Okay.
you can create a new character, a new class, without having to do that intro stuff over again. But
can't
once you make
swap.
the choice, you can. It doesn't seem like you can swap. Some more Game Pass stuff here. That Bethesda deal closed, and so a bunch of those Bethesda games are now available on Game Pass. They put out a list here. It's not a bad list. So, and I guess I'm looking at these. Most of these are also available. Actually, let's see here. Every single one of these games is available on PC, with the exception of Elder Scrolls Online, which is weird because that game is on the PC. But maybe they have a weird deal somewhere where they can't quite do that.
Maybe I think you have to authenticate through the Bethesda
the
launcher. I think you do for 76 though as well. So
right.
I don't know.
I wonder how quickly they deprecate that thing if they haven't already.
Right.
All right, so here's the games.
Right.
Dishonored Definitive Edition, Dishonored 2, Doom. That's original actual Doom. Doom 2, Doom 3, Doom 64, Doom Eternal, Elder Scrolls 3, that's Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 4, that's Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 5, Special Edition, that's Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, The Evil Within, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Fallout New Vegas, Prey, Rage 2, Wolfenstein The New Order, Wolfenstein The Old Blood, and Wolfenstein Young Blood.
Wow.
That's all on Game Pass. They sat down with Bethesda folks and put out a little show, just kind of saying, "Hey, the deal closed." That seemed like the message of that live stream. It is just like, we're talking to the creators, but like there was a bit in there where they seemed to imply that they were interested in applying the id Tech engine to more properties, that maybe Microsoft would want to use id Tech elsewhere,
Sure.
which is fascinating because id Tech is pretty cool. The other like glaring thing here that is not on the list is the like 2016 Doom, the first rebooted Doom.
Was that already
I don't know if that's is that already on there, or is it
I think it was already on there.
or is it on like PlayStation Now or something and they can't do that yet, or something. I'm gonna launch the Xbox app on my PC here.
Ooh,
See
real-time
what it has to
journalism.
say, about that. In addition to these games coming, some of them run better. I think this is super cool. They call it FPS Boost, and it turns all your games into first-person shooters. Finally, Microsoft really realizing the shooter bro archetype that became synonymous with Xbox Live there. It does boost the frames per second. Sorry, I read that wrong. For Dishonored Definitive Edition, Skyrim, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Prey. Fallout 4, a game that can use every frame it can get on those console versions for sure.
Yeah, 76 too. I've seen some gameplay of it running now. And it looks way better.
That's absolutely right. Okay, I'm typing Doom, and only Doom Eternal is showing up on in this app. So I don't. Doom 1993. I don't like having to call it that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Maybe I'll finally check out Dishonored.
That's the thing I was thinking, is that the arcane stuff especially is that they're the type of games that, like, you know, fans really enjoy, but not enough people have played Dishonored and not enough people have played Prey. Quite frankly, that game is like an absolute, like, one of the best FPS of the past 10 years. It's so smart. It's like System Shock sequel, good shooter, really cerebral, but just you kind of need to give it. You need to give it the time of day to get into it.
It needs to, because I spent kind of a lot of hours with it, and then got to a point where it seemed like, I don't want to use this branch of powers because the story seems to be going in a direction that maybe I shouldn't, and maybe that would be an interesting path to take. And I ended up just kind of falling off it not long after that, because the powers I did have were not that interesting. It's like, hey, you want the exciting powers, or do you want to do a story thing that may or may not pan out? And I always choose the story thing and then have a worse time with the game as a result.
Do you know?
And then when you said Prey, I had to sit there for like a while and go like,
which one?
Okay, wait, Tommy and
Fear the Reaper? Is that?
Yeah, and then I thought, well, why isn't this called? It says Prey. It doesn't say Prey 2, and I was like, wait, Prey 2 is a different game. On top of that never existed. Like, what a mess.
They had this game, had a different title, and Bethesda or whoever had the name, and they were like, sure, okay,
call it Prey, I guess. I'm
not sure. Is Moon Crash on that list? It's the DLC for Prey. It's so good.
I think
but I'm not sure
that
if
everything was included.
Okay, Moon Crash is fantastic.
I watched a trailer for the updated stuff and Prey, like the enhanced first person shooter stuff.
It's kind of
I know
like,
sometimes that's
the
the Game Pass stuff can be a little because it's Dishonored Definitive Edition, so that would be the version that includes the DLC. But generally speaking, DLC, I believe, does not come with every single Game Pass game. That's where they get you.
Yeah.
But yeah, higher frame rate, you can turn it off if you want. But they've been doing this little by little, kind of game by game, when they notice that they can make it work. And kind of getting these games up to 60 frames per second in some cases. I think that's a really cool bonus to get for some of this stuff. And I think that's really neat that they have done that. And like I said, man, Fallout 4, I don't know how it was running these days. I'm sure they've patched it quite a lot, but the console versions of that game, just terrible on the performance side. This is news about news that we don't know yet. Dying Light 2 there will be an update on the development of Dying Light 2, I guess tomorrow. And they have clarified the announcement is not we are canceling the game, which it's like sad in a way that like they would not do that. They would not have like, hey, we're having an event next week. We're gonna make some announcements next week to say like we've wrapped it up, guys. We're packing it in. Thanks for everything. Like, no. So they have got some kind of new details on it. The official Dying Light account responding to someone referring to the game as being in development hell. This tweet is like, again, it is the brand account here. It's like, as far as I know, the definition of a dev hell requires the game to not make any development progress. While Dying Light 2 keeps moving forward, we announced the game too early, but it's far from being in a dev hell. That's not, doesn't.
Tongue face.
Tongue face.
Yeah, and then, tongue emoji face. Not emoji, smiley, like a traditional
OG.
smiley.
Retro.
Yeah. So, Dying Light 2 sounds super ambitious. Obviously, has hit a lot of bumps along the way. And I guess we'll see what they have to say about it. But seeing like the account saying, hey, we announced it too early. Yeah, seems like a lot of games go through that.
Yeah, you could say Cyberpunk, arguably, people were waiting a long time for that game before it started. I think we might have the same thing with Elder Scrolls 6, which was but a twinkle in Todd Howard's eye when they announced it at E3, I think. Whatever it was 2 years ago now.
Right, because they have to finish Starfield first. Like that's the whole thing. But I think that seems like they announced Elder Scrolls 6 just to say shut up. Like, because people kept coming to them saying like, "Where's Elder Scrolls 6?" And it's just like, of course we're going to make it. We have nothing. But yeah,
I think the worry was that 76 was an online Fallout, when there might be some worry that they think we're not working on any more of their favorite games. So don't worry, we're also working on Starfield, and we're also still working on Elder Scrolls 6. But yeah, we had it in our documentary on them a couple of years back that by that stage Starfield was in production, but Elder Scrolls hadn't really started. It was in like pre-production basically. So yeah, and like that's not a big team, you know what I mean? They make those games with very few people, all things considered. So now it's bigger, but they do them one at a time.
Yes, compared to a lot of the what you think of as like a AAA dev team and all the other stuff, like they are not quite the size of that. Do you think Starfield ships this year?
No. I'd be very surprised. I don't think so.
I would be as well.
Although I do think they will go down the 76 and I think Fallout 4 route of not mentioning it until it's close to launch. I think that's, or at least not, showing much of the game in the lead up to it. They don't need to, and I think it probably causes them more hassle than anything else. But who knows now, because it's Microsoft who
right
the keys,
exactly. So. Like if Microsoft is kind of calling the shots on, well, I wonder how that will shake out. Like if that PR team at Bethesda, like the marketing, like if they will still have that autonomy there, or if Microsoft kind of plays a firmer hand in kind of the promotion of the game. But also, like, I think Microsoft, like the Halo stuff has not done well. Like that kind of burned them in a couple of different ways with how they have shown and not shown that game. So if anything, I could see them erring more on the side of like, no, let's wait until this thing is damn close to done, especially with the pandemic impacting so much of production, and who knows what delays anything we'll see around the next corner. So let's wait until we're very sure that this game is damn close to done before we start talking about it again. I mean, they still haven't really, like, think about the rest of the Microsoft slate. Like, they did come out and say, hey, Fable's going to happen, right? But they still haven't said shit about that, really. So I don't know. They're starting to get, between acquisitions and the stuff they'd announced already, they're starting to get games on the books that, they are in some kind of limbo or like they have not followed up on those announcements with fresh information.
A lot of these games are big games. You know what I mean? Like Obsidian's one as well. Their sort of fantasy role-playing thing that they announced last summer. Like, there's a lot of, these games aren't small. They're open world games. They're role-playing games. They're complex systemic games. Like, who knows what Starfield is? It's probably breaking a lot of new ground development-wise, I imagine. It's something new. So, add in an acquisition, add in the working from home stuff. I'm not optimistic. I think now we're going to start seeing that sort of slowdown of launch deeper into this year.
Definitely. That seems, I feel like the next handful of months here, as we start thinking more and more about, like, not E3 per se, but like that window of game announcements and stuff, and the release calendar as it stands these days, it's just going to be a really bizarre year for video games. And I feel weirder about it every day. Like, I feel like I feel like I'm hearing just like some tidbit from someone here and there that just makes me like, man, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is only going to get crazier. And I think expectations out of the public with new consoles on the market and all that other stuff, it just seems like it is headed for a really weird spot. Speaking of really weird spots, Mike Patton found himself in a really weird spot singing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song for the upcoming TMNT Shredder's Revenge. So yes, this is they're going to make a new side-scrolling beat 'em up in the Konami style from the looks of this reveal trailer. .mu will be publishing. They're the team. They're the publisher that put out Streets of Rage 4 and that Wonder Boy remake and all that stuff. And the development is coming from Tribute Games, who did Mercenary Kings. That, like, side-scrolling Monster Hunter-y kind of thing. Weird. And Flint Hook is also theirs. Yeah, Mercenary Kings. Wanted to like that. Beautiful game.
Yep, same.
The trailer looks cool. It's like the screenshots and stuff of it, the little bit of gameplay they put out. It does look like a newer version of the games Konami used to make, like, flinging the Foot Clan into the screen,
into this right at you, man.
Yeah,
jeez, brings me back.
And that's cool.
Looks badass.
TMNT's like gone through several different design iterations since being acquired by, like, Nickelodeon, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they went back to the 80s cartoon style.
I feel like that's what those games were. Like, they're probably making this for that audience of
exactly.
Because this publisher is all about nostalgia for that old shit and doing. I mean, they did that Wonder Boy thing. They did Streets of Rage 4. Like, this is. Like, I think if you went after that Nickelodeon look, people of a certain age would look at it and go like, what the fuck is this?
Totally.
What did you do to my turtles? So maybe that's a graphical option, though. Maybe they go like, hey, we also put in a new style turtles thing, but I don't know. That. Yeah, that seems like it'd be a lot of work for not a ton of payoff.
Yeah, we'll see. They've made a lot of bad Ninja Turtle games. More often than not.
One day, my boy Kino will be in a game. One day.
You think today is that day?
No, not. Unfortunately, not.
Okay. I'm always mixed on this stuff because I think that there's just a lot of the beat 'em up tropes just kind of don't always make for an interesting and replayable game in this day and age, and that's always my worry about this stuff. Is I remember going out and getting like Turtles in Time for the SNES, and then you just beat it immediately because you played it in the arcade a bunch, and you're like, what the fuck did I do? Why did I waste this money? Like the idea of those arcade ports always seemed like a bad idea, but a unique built for the home game, they could do all kinds of stuff to it. They could even make it way longer, more replayable if they found a way to do that. But I feel like a lot of devs don't. I don't know.
You weren't super hot on the Streets of Rage 4 one, right?
No.
Remember during Game of the Year, you and Jason were kind of on different sides of that one.
Yeah, there are neat things about it gameplay wise, but I think some of the ways they leaned into Streets of Rage by saying like, oh, now you're gonna fight this boss again, but with now the bosses of stage 2 and 4 are teaming up to fight you here at stage 8. I just want more new stuff throughout the it's a different era. We can do better as a people than repeating these boss fights, and they did not. So that's a big part of it. But also it was another thing of just like I finished it. It was like, yeah, cool. I don't want to replay this, except I unlock. In that case, you unlock a character that's like, oh, I wish I'd played the whole game like this because this is more entertaining. But the experience was so shallow that I just didn't feel like I wanted to go back. So it's hard to look at this and think anything other than that.
I enjoyed it.
I'm not saying it's like not enjoyable per se. It's just like for the amount of money they're charging for it, the amount of time you're getting out of it, like it just like feel like on a value proposition, it just does not do well. It's like
I don't want to go down this road with you again, Jeff.
Yeah.
Do it.
Sorry, I kind of threw this grenade.
Yeah. But I guess my fear is that they will make that same mistake again because it's done well for them in the past. So we'll see.
Hope you like beating up purple foot soldiers.
I do.
Yeah, I do.
So do.
Hey, can I punch Baxter Stockman?
Let's hope so.
I wouldn't mind doing that again.
Yeah, I wonder who they bring as bosses.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like who haven't they like has Usagi Yojimbo been in any of these? Like
games?
Does Casey Jones show up enough in these? Could you do that?
He turned heel.
Right.
No.
The dark mutagen turned him into I don't know.
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yes, exactly. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles characters that matter.
Maybe they bring the Lady Turtle, Venus de Milo.
Yeah.
A short-lived live-action TV show, yeah.
Yeah.
Lady Turtles. What are we doing?
They could bring the robot turtle, the one with the yellow bandana.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, my knowledge of TMNT is so shallow in compared to you. What is going on?
It went too many places, arguably.
They eventually
I liked
had a
Krang.
Krang was great. They had a
Could
crossover
Frank T.
with
Nelson be in this game?
maybe. They had a crossover with the Power Rangers once. That was tight.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll put the Power Rangers in there then.
Oh, please put the Power Rangers in it.
Jade Raymond, hot off of her exit from the Google Stadia situation, has announced a new studio, an indie studio in Montreal called Haven. And they are working on something. That's basically the announcement. But I guess the other tidbit here is that they made this announcement on the PlayStation blog.
Weird. Okay.
And so one would assume whatever they're working on will come to the PlayStation, but I don't necessarily know that that's a PlayStation exclusive. We'll see. But basically she's got a message here saying like, I still want to make games, which is something she didn't quite get to do successfully under Google's purview
Or her previous job at EA.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
Kevin
automotive. Yes,
Ruff guy.
absolutely. Yes, that's yes. Just all the way, hasn't had a hit since there.com. I don't know. Not true. Okay, so I guess actually the info here is near the end is like, we believe in the power of games to bring joy to people's lives, and Sony does too. Their commitment to excellence is unmatched. It's why I couldn't be happier for their backing and support. So maybe this does ends up being a PlayStation first IP, whatever it is. But they say, it also says, we don't have many details to announce today. I want the PlayStation community to know that Haven Studios is already hard at work on an unannounced IP. We can't wait to show you more. So, I have to assume that this is maybe that she has taken some of the other people who made their way out of that team when the Stadia stuff kind of imploded there. But we don't know for sure. I mean, there are a ton of developers and created a safe haven for them to quite literally to actually make a video game. This reminds me of some of this reminds me of the Kojima deal in a way.
Oh, sure.
Where she's announcing this and saying like that Sony is giving them backing and support. Like that's kind of, if I remember correctly, how some of the Death Stranding stuff at least started, is that they, like Kojima Productions went to Sony and pitched Death Stranding or something like it. And got Sony to kind of support it from there, and then it was still able to come out on PC eventually. So maybe this ends up being something like that. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. Wish him the best. That's that seems like Jade Raymond in particular seems like she's had a rough go of it over the last handful of years here at her last couple of positions. So maybe she'll get something shipped this time around.
Her last sort of, I would say, official credit, as it were, was the Mighty Cresta Epic Loot in 2015 as executive producer. She has a credit on Battlefront 2, but I think that's just because it's a EA wide. They put all the group, all the managers in there. But yeah, it's a long time.
Wow. It is a long time. Yeah.
Huh.
It's a weird one to have a credit on. Well, no, I guess it's not that weird, but
right.
Think about.
I think Far Cry 4 was her last.
Yeah.
She was managing director on that, so I think that was the last sort of.
That's got to be a long time to just be in that weird kind of limbo of like, I just imagine I feel like that, if I'm guessing, and I am guessing, like I feel like that's just a stretch of time from Far Cry 4 to today where you're just in meetings. You're just in meetings and nothing ever ships and nothing ever. Yeah. It's just like one meeting after another. And like you're just trying to make things happen and trying to move stuff forward, and maybe you get a credit here and there along the way, but it's just like a gigantic struggle, right? Like that's in my head. It has to feel something like that. I don't know, but damn, that is a long time. That's a very long time. That's going to do it for news. So let's take another break here, and we'll come back and get into y'all's emails.
Yeah.
It's 2021. It's time to start thinking about mental health. It's well past time, really. So many people are struggling right now and aren't feeling like their normal selves. Therapy helps. And doesn't just have to be sitting around talking about your feelings. What is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. You can privately talk to someone if you feel like you're not dealing well with stress, or if you're having relationship issues, whatever you've got going on in your life. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better. You deserve to be happy. We all do. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what therapy is really about. See if it's for you, because you are your greatest asset. This podcast is sponsored in part by BetterHelp, and Giant Bombcast listeners can get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/bombcast. That's betterhelp.com/bombcast. All right, we are back, and it's time for electronic mails, colloquially known as emails. Bombcast at giantbomb.com is the address that you will send your emails to if you would like them to be considered for this program. Much like one Josh from Edgewater, Maryland has done with a question here for Danny.
I know Josh.
This is, we're opening with the important stuff here. Danny, I was hoping to get your opinion about Irish food in AA County. Okay. Is the Killarney House Irish Pub in Davidsonville any good?
It's not bad. It was like the closest restaurant to my house. So I went there with my parents when they came. So we did the whole thing. My wife, my kid was there, myself, and my parents, and it was pretty good. It was like, they had like soda bread, and they had I'm trying to think what else. Guinness, so my dad was happy.
Okay,
all the essentials, really. Yeah, it was all right. It was pretty good. We waited until they came because it was the most Irish ass looking. I couldn't believe it when I drove past it. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. My local pub is called Killarney House. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm not sure if this is the same. There's a dude, I forget his name, but it was a guy in the off license in the liquor store in Edgewater where I used to get all my liquor, who is a big Giant Bomb fan. And it could be Josh.
Really?
Or there's more than one Giant Bomb fan.
If not, then Josh, you should go to the liquor store and
you should
say hi.
That guy was super cool as well. He didn't seem to mind that I'd come in every couple of weeks and load up on delicious treats for myself. Not much else to do out in the fucking middle of nowhere in Maryland.
I guess not. Yeah. But I guess like at least you were going in there every 2 weeks and not just like every day. Like,
no.
I need 3 more bottles.
It was my pre having a kid wild days before I had to, be awake 22 hours of the day, and I sobered up pretty quickly.
Yeah. When does that part stop? Oh, is that? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Ryan from Texas asking the question on everybody's lips. We even mentioned it earlier. So now that Bethesda is owned by Microsoft, does this mean we can uninstall the Bethesda launcher? Because Jesus Christ, I have 10 different launchers installed.
Shit, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I do not have the Bethesda launcher installed. But in case people are wondering, all launchers available are this is quite a list. Uplay, which they call Ubisoft Connect now, but BattleNet, Origin, GOG, Epic, Steam, Xbox, Bethesda, Rockstar, and Discord, which I guess they kind of had a store there.
Oh yeah,
I think they've stripped the store out. So. But it is a launcher.
Did we mention the Amazon one, the Twitch one?
No, he didn't know. This looks like Ryan could, hey, uninstall that Bethesda one, install the Twitch launcher. That's probably still exists, right? Get more launchers. I'm trying to think. I have
more launchers.
I have GOG installed because I thought the GOG Galaxy stuff was interesting. The way they're trying to bring together, like they try and merge all your platforms.
Neat. Yeah, it's kind of slick.
I thought that was
and
neat.
I like having just like a unified like kind of store looking page. Like I was looking at like Harvester or whatever that they had on there, and they brought up trailers and stuff and YouTube videos, and it was neat. Just kind of scrolling through the library, finding out what they had for it. It was neat.
Yeah.
It was neat. Neat.
Matt from Maryland.
Wow.
Writes in.
With
some potato chip technology, some new tech here.
Oh, hell
some
yeah.
of you. Matt says, growing up eating potato chips, I would always reach my hand into the bag, eat my helping of chips, and clip it shut when I'm done. Rinse, repeat until I finish the bag. When I met my wife, I noticed that she'd eat some, cut the top with scissors, clip it, and put it away. I thought this was needlessly silly until I noticed that with her doing this, I never had more than part of my hand in the bag reaching chips to eat them. As the bag got more empty, I wasn't reaching part of my arm down into the greasy remnants and shards of chips to the chips at the bottom, and I now do this all of the time. Do any of you do this? And is this dumb?
No, it's not dumb.
Yeah, I started doing this. Yeah, I started doing this not that long ago, actually. Of just like, fuck it, why don't I cut this bag? This is dumb. Why do I keep getting my like arm, my forearm, all greasy and disgusting from like.
Well, I like that part.
I mean, if
Get
you
to
like
the
that part,
arm
you can.
afterwards.
You don't have to cut the chip bag, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't have scissors that close by. That seems like work. That I don't
do.
wanna
So
do.
like, and I think if I had to go looking for scissors every time, I probably wouldn't do it. But I'm usually eating chips on the counter, and there's a pair of scissors literally right there. So
I will say that we have our chips in the corner, and right under that is actually the drawer that we keep the scissors. But I call it the carb counter because that's where we have our bread and chips and
yeah, but you ain't
stuff
counting
that we're not
carbs.
supposed to eat.
Oh, no.
I am. I joke a lot about my diet, but I'm pretty on top of it. For the most part.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Um.
Sometimes never.
My buddy will eat hot Cheetos with chopsticks because he doesn't like the chip residue.
Dust.
Yeah.
Smart.
I just I solved that problem by dumping the chips directly out of the bag into my stupid mouth.
He does that after he's like gone.
Okay. Yeah.
There's not a lot of
That's
chips
too
back.
deep.
Sometimes
We gotta-
that goes bad on you and you end up with Cheeto dust all over your nose.
Mm.
And
Right.
that's not a good look.
We got a surplus of Tupperware at one stage, so now I just habitually pour bags into like containers of chips, which is a good time because then you can see the selection of chips at all
that's
time, and then you
nice.
can eat them all the time and put on like 30 pounds during quarantine.
Yeah.
So that's a good time.
And they probably
East
don't go
Coast chips
stale
is-
as quickly. So.
No, they don't. They stay forever. But the problem is I eat them faster, so they don't need to go stale. They don't have a chance.
Okay.
I don't give them the opportunity. Do you guys ever have Utz? Is that a East Coast chip?
What's that?
I think it's
ETZ?
primarily East Coast. I have had Utz chips before,
Good.
but yeah.
I miss
Yeah.
Utz. So he said Maryland potato chip, and I was like, oh, I remember Utz. I miss Utz.
Yeah. Quality.
This is us.
Stefan from Eureka has some intel into the world of the Insane Clown Posse.
Finally.
Or what it's like to work an ICP concert. Says, I used to work in the concert world in the Midwest, and ICP came through the venue 3 different times. It's been a couple of years now, so my mind is a bit fuzzy, but here's what I remember. They sold out the venue every time. 1,000 capacity venue, $30 tickets, and they even had DJ Paul from 3-6 as tour support. Yeah, so ICP sells out venues in the Midwest. That ain't news. Faygo is an absolute key component to their shows. This I think Brad may have been surprised by this aspect of the show. They'd bring a couple hundred 2-liters to the venue and have 4 designated homies on tour whose sole job is to constantly spray the crowd with Faygo from on stage. This happened every show. Our venue was concrete on every surface, so we would have standing Faygo about an inch deep by the end of the show that we'd have to push broom into garbage cans and pour outside.
It's just rude, man.
Yeah, so there are parts of that show where like one of they have people with them, but also where like a song is just playing and you've got like a Shaggy 2 Dope or perhaps a Violent J with a 2-liter in each hand just going like this, just whipping arms up and down and just spraying the crowd everywhere with it. Like that is an ICP show. Is someone constantly flinging fucking sticky liquid in your direction for 2 hours.
Is there not like a fire safety element to this, like with all the electronics? That sounds terrifying.
I think at this point, I think they have gotten to a point where it's like, okay, we know to put plastic over the top of this amp or this, like that generally they know what a venue needs to make it work. Fans showed up expected to get trashed by Faygo, very similar to their expectations for a Guar show with the blood splash zone. Yeah.
Sure. It's not standing. Oh,
yeah. The idea of like and multi-flavored. It's like a variety of Faygo flavors, just an inch deep on the floor. And if a pit gets going and you fall, yeah, exactly. Your shoes are that's disgusting.
Oh, I've seen someone get stepped on in a pit before, but then just to imagine them being drenched with Faygo too.
Yeah, imagine being face down in an inch of Faygo. That's how I want to go.
I'm deciding the show title today.
I don't recall if ICP rapped over their own vocals, but I can say they didn't do wrestling moves or personally spray the crowd. Their stage presence to the crowd was pretty lit, and they rapped their whole songs. Okay, so I saw them in Sacramento, and it was very much like their own vocals were playing over the PA, and they were just kind of doing whatever to them, and then they would fucking just fake fight each other in the middle of a song, and it didn't matter because that was fun too. And House of Pain opened for them, which was like a bummer.
Wow. God, yeah, that's a... Huh.
Or no, never. I'm sorry, never mind. We saw House of Pain at a separate show at the same venue. It was not an opening act. That's, yes. But House of Pain live would bum me out in ways I can't.
How many times did they do jump around?
This was like years after, like this was after the second album, and maybe even the third album had come out. So it was like very late era House of Pain.
Did they still do it twice?
They probably did. Yeah, they probably did. They probably did. Only a handful of people would actually show up decked out in face paint. It was an all ages show, but strictly late 20s to early 40s people attended. Decent amount of Hatchet Man tattoos.
Decent amount. Good.
Yeah. The gang unit. Yeah, the gang unit of the city went undercover for a show and arrived fully juggaloed out in face paint, elephant pants, chains, etc., and got promptly called out as being an undercover cop by concert attendees for trying too hard. He had to leave after 15 or so minutes. Yeah.
That is the worst day of your life when you're getting kicked out of an ICP concert for being too hardcore of an undercover juggalo.
Yeah. Well, wow. I mean, but also good on the crowd for being able to sniff out a cop in the crowd and be like, this is no one does this. Like, and also I have to imagine in a lot of Midwestern areas, I have to feel like a lot of those people probably know each other to a certain extent,
Right.
Like, when ICP plays, these are the people I see.
I was going to ask, is like an ICP show somewhere where you like meet new people, or you see people you haven't seen in a while, or you see like your buddies?
I think it could be all of those things.
Like family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The family reunion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone at the ICP show that I went to other than the three people I was with. Whatever that's worth. ICP doesn't play out west that much because they don't sell out venues, or they didn't. I told the story before, but they were booked to play here in Petaluma and refused to perform. Because there were not that many people out in the crowd. And so, knowing people that were working at the venue and all other stuff, like I kind of got the real story. Whereas I think people that were in the crowd just stood there waiting for the show to start, and then it didn't, and then they left. But like it was very much a like Violent J asking people like, how many people out there, getting the number and being like, nah.
Wow.
And they refused to come out. They said, oh, Violent J's sick, he can't perform, so sorry. They'd loaded in, so they'd loaded in like a gigantic, like it was like a size of a coffin on a pedestal, but it was really a cooler full of 2 liters of Faygo. And so they'd loaded all the Faygo in, and so we stole some. And then the guy that ran the venue came out and got on the microphone and basically just fucking buried ICP. He was like, yeah, they refused to fucking come out. Like did not come on and give the like, oh, he's got a strep throat, can't perform, like none of that bullshit. And so,
man, not even a complimentary Faygo spray.
Nope. I stole. We stole a handful of two liters, and I hung on to them for a lot of years for some reason. And then they did. When you keep soda for a long time, eventually it evaporates, and the 2 liter starts to just shrink in ways that you're like, this is gonna burst open someday. I gotta get rid of this. So I threw it out.
Good call.
Yeah. All right.
Had to have been tough. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, it was, it really opened my eyes to just like, you know what? These guys are running a business at the end of the day. Maybe it ain't all about the love.
Stockton.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Stockton, I bet Stockton would do well with an ICP show. Dear Bombcast, writes Adam from Oxford in the United Kingdom. I'm playing Mario Maker 2 with my 7-year-old, and he asked me, Daddy, where do the Goombas go when they walk off the screen? So where do they go? No, that's no, and so Adam wants to know what our thoughts are on this hot topic. I imagine they just keep going.
Yeah.
Yep. Like
Maybe
forever.
They weren't even like happy about being there in the first place. Have you seen them? They look grumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they were going to work or something. Weren't you happy about it? And then
Is that like a green
plumber
room?
guy just comes by and starts smashing your buddies, smushing them.
Is that it?
It's
Every
all the
morning you
time.
wake up and you have to walk to work and you're always worried that some lunatic plumber is going to come through and just crush you to death. And so you're just
He's
like,
a menace.
I'm just trying to walk to work here, man.
Yeah. The same way the Jawas talk about Anakin Skywalker, the Goombas talk about the legend of Mario and his freaking demon posse stomping on him.
Yeah. Motherfuckers, man.
Animals. Animals.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Adam
like,
from
oh, never mind. Maybe a winged Koopa lifts them back up and puts them back. Who knows?
For more
maybe they're
suffering.
lucky. A winged Koopa can give them a ride home or something like that.
It's a casual carpool.
Yeah. Adam from Greensboro wants to know about thrift stores. What are your most memorable thrift store, flea market, or yard sale finds? About 3 years ago, I found the first 12 issues of Nintendo Power in a stack of Playboys at Smiley's Flea Market in Fletcher, North Carolina. Each magazine was only $1, so I ended up spending about $40, which to me says if there were 12 issues of Nintendo Power in a stack of Playboys and he spent $40 on dollar magazines, your boy Adam picked up quite a lot of Playboys with his Nintendo Powers.
You gotta get a lot. Some of the pages are stuck together, so you gotta buy a lot of them.
Yeah, there's like a solvent you can get for that, I think. What's your big thrift store? Got any good come ups?
When I worked in a GameStop, it was kind of like working in a thrift store because people would trade in stuff. But we started taking DVDs, and a lot of DVDs weren't on the system if they were like weird boxes or like Christmas bumper editions or whatever. But we'd still take them, but they'd get scanned in at like a sort of question mark thing. I think it was like $1 or €1 rather, and it was like €5 if it was a pack. So my 50% discount or whatever it was, 30% discount on secondhand stuff still applied to that. So I just got shitloads of anime box sets that were scanned in, we didn't have on the system, and then I bought before they got sent back to headquarters to be given a proper thing. So yeah, that was fun. I got a lot of weird anime and weird box sets that way.
Nice.
Manager didn't care. Good times.
Yeah.
Speaking of Playboy, I bought my mother a metal lighter cover. I was probably 5 or 6, and I'm like, oh, Mom likes rabbits. And she smokes. Let me buy her this metal lighter cover. You can put your Bic lighter in there, but it had a jeweled Playboy bunny on it. And I'm like, here, Mom, happy Mother's Day.
I might be able to do
whatever it was.
I might be able to do one better. One of the brothers in my school, my secondary school I went to, it was a Lasallian brothers thing where they lived in the building, and some of them were teachers, lovely fellas, right? There's this one guy who came in one time. He was a bit of a head case as well, and he came in with a tie with the Playboy bunny on it. And we were like losing our fucking mind. It's like an all boys Catholic school, and we're like losing our fucking minds. And like, where'd you get that tie, brother? Where'd you pick it up with your magazines or any of this, right? And he kind of like, brushed it off, or whatever. And the next day he came in with the same tie, except he'd like markered in the bunny.
Oh,
the only tie he had.
Oh yeah, I guess.
So it wasn't a statement or anything. I thought he would be wearing it loud and proud. But
yeah, I mean,
market it up. Huh?
He got it with his probably year subscription. I don't know what.
Yeah, it's nice to get a free tie. I got like a 2 Live Crew tape. A friend of mine got a 2 Live Crew tape from the flea market that when I was 14 or something like that was a real eye opener.
Oh yeah.
and that was cool. And then I bought my TurboGrafx at a flea market for like $50. That's probably the
Nice.
You know, they were still in production. It wasn't quite on the way out, but it was clear that it was not necessarily posing a market threat to the Genesis or the Super Nintendo. So, yeah, that's the one I always go back to. I haven't done a lot of like thrifting or just like going and looking for video games. Like the last couple of years, kind of before this last year, like we'd go into some Goodwills here and there, and I would look at games and then just go like, I don't need I don't need way more like PS2 games. Like I already have too many, arguably. So I just wasn't finding anything cool. It was always fun to go to Japan and buy used games there, but all those prices were fair. It wasn't like a situation where you're like, oh, I'm ripping them off. This is great. I'm getting 100 games, you know, like you might find at a flea market or something like that.
I've mentioned that I've like the saga of like the Wii balance boards at my local Goodwill. But I went to a different thrift store, and there were like 3 more Wii balance boards just there. But this time they were packed in with like the Wii, was it Wii Sports or Wii Fitness? Wii Fitness.
Wii Fit, yeah.
Wii Fit, yeah. The game there, and it was like, oh, this is a better deal over here. Sell them for $5 a pop. And I'm just wondering, like, man, are people buying these or just finally getting rid of them? I found once like a full complete set of like Rock Band drums with like guitars and everything.
Oh,
I was really tempted to pick those up. I was like, I shouldn't.
They're expensive these days. I got one secondhand off eBay eventually. I had to get Alex to help me with the compatibility of which ones would work and all that, but they're kind of hard to come by.
I scored in oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I scored in an espresso machine once that was like worth a bunch, and I flipped that bad boy because it wouldn't fit on my kitchen counter. And then I bought a Chemex, which is like a coffee pour over thing, for like $2. They normally go for like 30 or 40 because the Goodwill thought it was a flower vase.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, we have to step in here and help someone with a wrestling related situation here. Nolan in Denver says, I do not follow wrestling, nor do I know very much at all about it, though for reasons I own a New Japan World Wrestling shirt. Last year I wore said shirt on a solo trip through Wyoming, where a gas station attendant outside of Laramie got very excited. He said it made his day to see another wrestling fan, and I hesitantly went along with it. He then made a hand gesture, placing his middle and ring finger on his thumb, while his pointer and pinky finger were in the air, kind of like a weird devil horns or a quiet coyote, if you are familiar with the movie Soul. I just kind of smiled and nodded, trying to leave the situation until he said, don't leave me hanging. I just made the same hand gesture, and we booped them together. He looks disappointed.
Well, yeah.
My question to you wrestling experts is, what the fuck was I supposed to do? What does that gesture mean?
Too sweet.
Thanks for all you do. Yes, you were too sweeting him. And it sounds like you completed the gesture. I mean, you completed it. You did.
But there was enough hesitation that
Yeah. That
you bummed him out.
Yeah, it was the hesitation there that. So let's see the complicated history.
If you get it too sweet, you just do it. But with that hesitation there, it really brings down the mood, man. So
yeah.
You
next
don't
time
want
somebody does that, you just go for it.
You don't want like a pity too sweet or like a hesitant too sweet. You need the confidence back at you.
Right. And I guess the deal here is that was originally something that mostly happened backstage amongst members of a group of performers that were referred to as the Clique, who then some of them left to go to WCW and then started doing it on television a lot more, and it became affiliated with the NWO, and that's where it became, because they would talk about the NWO being too sweet and for life. And so they would too sweet each other with it. And then in more recent history, the Bullet Club, which was a NWO-like faction that existed in New Japan, because they were kind of a modern take on the invasion NWO style invasion faction. They started doing it, and then that whole thing split up. There is still a Bullet Club there, but like a lot of those people went off to become very popular in the United States all over again. And so now you have them doing it here. And at some point, the Young Bucks were doing it so much that the WWE sent them a cease and desist saying to stop Too Sweeting so much because they own it. And it's it's dumb. At the end of the day, it is like, I think you could look at it as when old timers say things like, all these guys wrestling now just are like, they're cosplaying, they're pretending to be wrestlers. We were being ourselves and just being cool, but they're just trying to be like us, which is exactly what an old timer would say. They point to things like that, where they are people who grew up with that wrestling, and now they are doing it on television themselves, and it's like this weird, almost parody of itself thing in a way that only wrestling can be sometimes. And I know too much about this. I wish I was in the case of having a gas station attendant do it and me going like, what?
Too late.
Too late.
Too sweet.
Too late. Too sweet. All right.
That was a nice history lesson. That's great.
Yeah.
I hope I got it all right there. You know, it's always a little complicated, but there were moments there when, you know, because the Clique had split up and Hall and Nash were on WCW, and you had Shawn Michaels and Triple H and Sean Waltman, I think, was still on the other side, X-Pac, the 1-2-3 Kid, I guess at the time. And, you know, they were just doing dumb little things like doing it to each other on TV while they were walking out to the ring and not mic'd up and just like making reference to each other, even though they were at rival companies. And it was like, I think a lot of people behind the scenes at the time maybe viewed it as incredibly childish behavior from people that were getting paid millions of dollars, but still demanded to act in this way.
Crosby, Still, Hall, and Nash.
Yes, exactly.
CSNH.
Yeah. That's the Four Horsemen.
Yeah. Yes. The new Four Horsemen. Zoe from East Atlanta with our last question here. If you are making scrambled eggs for breakfast for you alone, how many eggs do you use? I would probably say 3.
2 eggs.
2.
Yeah.
3. I might want more than 2. I won't want more than 3.
Yes. It's like if I'm eating 4 eggs, I probably have made some mistakes. But here's a bonus question. Okay, you're making scrambled eggs for breakfast, but you know for a fact you won't have time to eat lunch that day. How many eggs do you use then? Does that change your answer at all? I don't think it does for me.
Eggs aren't going to fill you up for the whole day. That's not happening. Yeah. Or you don't want to eat as many eggs as that would require.
Precisely.
Go right through you.
Yes, that's.
You should have thought about a quiche at that point.
Yeah, or like, you know, if you're making an omelet or something like that, you put a little something, throw some cheese in there at a minimum. Yeah. You know, if not some meats and onions or something.
That bit of ham. The sliced ham. It doesn't get a shout in very often, but sliced ham, you know, just a bit of from a package. That's great. That works super good.
Yeah. It's very easy. Fling it on in there.
Yeah. Done deal.
Make some toast to go on the side of it or something, or, you know, make some toast and then throw the eggs in the toast like a little happy fun. I like a breakfast sandwich. No matter what.
I love a breakfast sandwich or a breakfast burrito. Not enough breakfast burritos here.
Yeah, no, not enough. I have a microwave breakfast burrito that I have been turning to in the mornings for a while now, and they're just fucking terrible. But I keep getting them because they're just so convenient on days where it's like, I'm definitely not going to have time to do anything real for breakfast ever again. But just being able to like, I can just throw this in there and get it over with and get on with my day. Yeah.
That might be the first thing I buy on a post-vaccine day out would be a breakfast, like English muffin.
Oh yeah,
something like that. Just
yeah, and you're just gonna eat it outside. Yeah. Eat it inside. Who cares?
Oh my.
Walk around and eat it.
That's right.
Eat it in the Bart.
Yeah. Yes. Go
Which even
lick
before
the poles on a BART train for a
vaccine.
while. And,
Yeah.
That's
Dodgy. Good day.
Yeah. Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. Maybe that day will come. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Have ourselves a nice egg sandwich somewhere.
Your best egg sandwich. Be like that guy in Fight Club. The most delicious egg sandwich you've ever tasted.
Right. Because it was eaten with true freedom.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Someone else made it. Someone else's dirty fingers went all over that egg.
That's right. Did they cough on it? Guess what? I don't
Hope
care.
so. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Put a little
Spit
extra
in my
on
mouth.
it. That's right. It's been so long since I've been able to shout that and feel good about it. That's going to do it for the Giant Bombcast. Thanks to everyone for hanging out with us live, or if you're downloading the show on the internet somehow through some kind of
shame
download
on you.
portal, and stop all the downloads. No, hey, start all the downloading.
Yeah.
The Giant Bombcast, wherever finer podcasts are podcasted. Come and get it. I think that's the slogan.
Yeah.
I think I had it wrong at the top of the show. Come and get it, I think is the Giant
Gamers
Bombcast.
go to get it.
That's right. If you're looking to get it, come and get it.
Wouldn't get it.
We'll be back next Tuesday with another episode of the show. Got some other stuff happening on the website this week, so check out giantbomb.com for more details on that. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jason. Danny, you're on the internet. You're on YouTube.
I'm on the internet. Happy
Is
Paddy's
that
Day,
your
everyone.
fancy? Is that your fancy new camera behind you? Are you like
It is.
stunting? Are you like just casually have it in the shot? Like, oh, by the way, this is my 4K camera.
It's it takes so long to put together that it's probably just going to live on those sticks for a while because I don't want to have to disassemble it again.
Is that a Sony FS5?
It is a Canon. It's a C300 Mark III.
Beauty.
So it's costs about as much as a good car. So
Or
got the
several
insurance
bad
on
cars.
it. Thank God, so I can sleep at night
Yeah.
now. Don't have to lock it away. 4K
Great.
videos, fun to edit.
All right, now think about all the other links in the chain you get to now upgrade to handle all that video.
It's like going back in time. Every time we get a new piece of tech, you're like, oh sugar, everything runs bad again.
Geez. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've got it insured and all this other stuff, then this will work out great. I'm just going to break in and steal it, and then we'll have 4K videos too.
Then you have to do your live streams in 4K. See, it's just
I think if I let people come in and like mount like actual fiber network hardware into my home, I could get 2 gigabytes of upstream. But it sounds like it takes multiple months to make that happen, so it's like still kind of a disaster. But then maybe I could do 4K out of here. Yeah. Anyway, that's gonna do it for us here. Have a great week, everybody. We'll be back next week with another show. See you then.